Which is all right. Welcome to Vibe Osmosis. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you, sir?
It's been all right today for sure. Enjoying the weather for no doubt. Go ahead and
Right.
introduce yourself and what you do.
My name is James. I go by Fluorite Kids. It's a collaborative and a one-man band project itself. And yeah, just making music and keeping it real.
What got you interested in music?
I started at 2 years old playing drums. It was taking place at my uncle's house up in upstate California, and I began drumming there. That's how it started the passion of music. Uh, so far, after a couple years, started going into school, um, acquired internal metronome through my brain, which was also really cool. Um, Music is also good too. Music was good in school, also being in band class.
I also did band, but I didn't do it in college. But I even did like the pep rally band and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I've always really enjoyed taking the time to like learn music and like for me like at that point in age it was like I know that like artists for so long has been writing down their music and like was able to put on paper and like write and also like play what they wrote, and that to me was like, how do I do that, and like how can
right,
I get to that point of like making changes and adjustments rather than just like playing stuff. So
right,
what
right.
what was your first instrument?
My first instrument was drums. I started doing vocals at a young age, being in a chorus class in somewhere around elementary, secondary school. Um, then I began percussion and band class through middle school, and that's how I developed a love for creating music production
Right.
soon after. And that was usually during high school, where I began junior to senior year of high school. Is where I met a lot of connections, a lot of cool friends and connections. And that's how it kind of formed Fluorite Kids. First, it was a rap project, and then it became to be a one-man project. Uh,
That was going to be one of my first questions was how did rap get into like the incorporations of your music? Because it's like a somewhat spoken word, but also melodic and like has like its own different like derivative behind the track or what drives the track. Yeah.
yeah, during rap music, when I was in middle school to high school, I was beginning a love for a lot of early 80s hip hop, and that's how it kind of drove me into kind of the psychic of learning more about how to create analog, uh, real music, without using any digital interface whatsoever,
Right.
uh, which is something I've always found
Start
out
off
very
with.
interesting. I've always found it very interesting going from analog to digital. I wonder how that works for some other people.
Yeah, yeah. For me, like whenever I was younger starting out, it was like I need instruments and like amps and sound. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
really focused on like, yeah, like how am I going to get this recorded? And then once my dad gave me like a tape recorder and I was starting to record tapes, I was like, I don't need to focus or worry about any other way because I can just set up and have like everything go through and then just is captured. And as I've gotten older and I look back on those tapes, I'm like, wow, if I would have had like a actual DAW, having this like separated and track by track, or having like the stems would have been, so detrimental to like the progression and changes throughout like music. What was your first DAW?
My first DAW was GarageBand, and then it slowly turned into FL Studio, then made my way through Pro Tools during high school of junior year, and I fell out of the class because it was actually a group. It was going to be a camp group for music production for Pro Tools, and I just didn't really work out for me. So then I went back
I
to
hate that stuff
Logic.
too.
Then I moved to Logic. What's up?
I hated that kind of stuff too. Even with like learning stuff about logic at first, I was just like, yeah, like I'm not gonna take the time to like go through step by step on like the best way to do this or work this doll and like try to figure it out myself. And then I feel like as you go throughout navigating that, you're like finding stuff you have to Google and look up on YouTube or whatever if you don't take that like that recording workshop or whatever. That's for sure. And what brought you to the title of your band name, Fluorite Kids?
Well, I was up in Auburn, California, which is about 2 hours away from where I live. I went up there to visit family and friends for Halloween for pumpkin, whatever you call it, going in through the seasonal winter times of fall, and then you start to begin September and October. It was around October time, but it was almost like a pumpkin patch. Cider, there was cider everywhere. Looked very carnival-ish. But as I was there, I saw a lot of gemstone vendors that were showing out for show and tell. As I was there, I saw fluorite, and fluorite was the main one gemstone that is good for the chakra in your chest. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, she showed me, it was a lady who was
Like the chakra, like
in,
chakra in your chest, like plexus or something, right? Is that what you
I'm
mean?
not sure. I don't really recall the first name that comes up to my brain when I think of the chest of the
Right.
chakra, ball
Yeah,
chakra.
right, that's what it means, yeah.
I know that there's the crown chakra, the throat chakra. I'm not so sure about the chest.
One thing that I know, like on this one, we'll mention, the chakra triad would be the solar plexus, brow, and crown, and it basically helps you learn more about the relationship of the soul to spirit, and gains a greater understanding of communication with guides and angels.
There you go.
So that's a little bit of history behind fluoride, I guess, too. I know. What kind of brought you interested in like crystals and chakra?
I've been actually really interested in it lately. Working at my job, I work at a movie theater in Northern California called the Orinda Theater. It's a historic landmark theater. I have a coworker who I was talking about spirits and going to graveyards and, searching for conversations with other spirits. I've found out to have a good conversation and found out mostly forward through like the years of um, producing music and mixing music for my own liking, not to just, publish it for full closure for anyone to see up to code. But as I was talking with my coworker about this, we were talking about gemstones and how they help each chakra to go through the healing process, because you go through a very slow healing process. If you put chakras, or not chakras, silly me, crystals, for example, if you put it around in your room, it's more likely to heal you slow. What's the word? The plasticity, the neuroplasticity in your brain will eventually calm down. It usually comes for a certain amount of period. It's very not long term, but it happens short term, a very slow process. Because I have amethyst, whatever it's called, amethyst. It's like the blue crystal, purple crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what that crystal does.
Yeah, that's also one thing about me as well, is like on my search and journey at these shops, I feel like each own stone or crystal kind of has its own like purpose and or meaning at that time. Like what draws you to it, and like I feel like that's kind of where you're like, okay, like this is what's been lacking in my life. This is maybe like my remedy to like right having that in your life and seeing how that affects your maybe like karma in a sense too.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your music. I listened to it's Spooky in California.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that your latest release that you have out right now?
Yes, right now that is the latest release currently out on services or whatever it's on. I've been really what's the wait, how I want to describe this. This album is very retrospective than my debut album. My debut album is
Yeah.
something I kept in closet doors for a very long time. That's The Wolves. The Wolves is really good, but It's Spooky in California is very retrospective, especially long term if you think about it from 2021 to 2023. It's changed so much. The music, I've come around so many different um, connections over the years. Just Ariel Pink and so many other people um, in the music industry of alternative and indie pop. It's just how music has transitioned so amazingly over the years. It's just amazing to see um, the music trans. Yeah, it's like it goes from one part of a different time to another time, and I feel like this album was very, I don't know, it's hard to describe. The album was really different to produce, with different equipment. Equipment was different this time around. Um, do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I'm a instrument enthusiast. For one thing, I'll keep this mobile guy on deck. It runs, you know, completely on battery. You don't need anything. So
Wow.
this one's a mobile goer, and it also has like these little beat pads on it. So it's like awesome to make your own little beat and jam. And it has like over 100 rhythms and like 100 sounds. So this one is like a real like mobile goer. But yeah, like I'm really into like keyboard synthesizer. My first instrument was actually guitar. I took lessons. Like the first song I learned was Reptilia by the Strokes and then Purple Haze. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, once I learned those two, it was just like, yeah, I'll keep on going to class until like I have like a gist of like what kind of music I'm interested in and like go that route. What about you? Did you take lessons?
I took lessons for a little bit, like during middle school years. I did take some drum lessons that went kind of downhill a little bit, and then it went uphill, then it went downhill. As I started to move forward into um, more of a progression kind of rock, kind of indie rock, kind of pop sounding music,
Yeah.
as I graduated middle school, that's where it kind of, as again, I get set situation, um, silly me, how it transitioned from that music to this music is kind of like the same situation that's going on with the music how I create now, as opposed to how I did drums when I was in middle school is so much different. Um,
Would
but
you
yeah,
say, would you say that you start like a song by with the drums first then? Like still in this last record, Spooky?
yes, definitely drums. Definitely drums and synthesis. I went to synthesis courses in San Francisco. Uh,
Nice.
that was pretty fun. Made a lot of good connections there. Um, Also found my passion for just realizing how much I knew about synthesis in the back of my head um,
Yeah.
from going to school. Because it's like you learn so much on YouTube, but then when you go to school hands on, it's like such an amazing experience. I mean,
Yeah, it pushes you a lot more, especially in your artistic expression and trying to apply different techniques, especially.
yeah,
Um,
it works. It works very. What's a good word? It's hard to describe sometimes. It's I want to say experimental, but that's more of a very overused word for me. Let's say um, very non-complex, but more constructive in a way. If you could kind of feel like if you felt like synth pop or indie music was really the narrative or the idea you were putting in front of the music, I feel like visually, if I went from The Wolves to It's Spooky,
yeah.
transition of music really went, it flowed differently, but it also flowed good. It wasn't like, um, it wasn't a pressured recording of what you could say is like, oh, it's like more studio, like more not home studio, because home studio is more like bedroom pop or music like that,
Yeah.
as you could describe it, but not the music itself. It's just how it was created is how it works.
Yeah, and that is one thing I think is really interesting from the difference of like home studio to actually going into like a space and recording like track by track or like the whole like live like instrumental and adding your overdubs or whatever the process is. Yeah, so like on like recording like this latest record, did you like have like a certain DAW you were always going for, or were you mixing it up on the tracks too? Or were you trying to like build tracks and then find out like what was going to make it on the album? How did it work for you?
Well, in the beginning of 2021, I began my obsession with Arthur Russell and a bunch of other musicians of like him in the experimental pop world of going through Indian music to transitioning to something more what's the word? Um, oh, it's hard for me to describe a lot of things. It was more it was more set in a story to give out the impression that this guy made music for such a long time, but most of the people who were apprehending the idea that he was just a guy who was in school having a hard time, as opposed to living with these parents, you
Yeah.
know, in Iowa with him. And then again, he moved over to like San Francisco, started a whole, um, what's the word? It's hard for me to describe today, man.
Uh,
Um,
I would say I'm really big on Pioneer and using different elements and techniques in his music. Yeah, and also like there's a little bit of the stuff that was happening in his life translating in the music that also like really transpired to great records. I'm also a really big fan of Arthur Russell. Um it's always like something to space out in, especially during like holiday time. I feel like it's a November, October kind of vibe for me that really sets the tone. That's really interesting about music that I think we have like different artists and stuff we like place in like where you listen to it or like what kind of time frame, and then there's also like the bands that you can listen to like no matter the season. You know, do you kind of have bands like that where you like, oh, like it's time to crank out the Dead Man's Bones because it's Halloween or something, you know?
yeah, in certain seasonal times, if I'm, strolling through work or driving or commuting through the Bay Area where I live, I mostly fall into, not really fall into, fallen's the wrong way of describing. I would rather pitch myself visually listening to music as if I'm going through different seasons, like Arthur Russell or this artist or this artist or this artist that I may give out an example of that I wouldn't really want to give an example of because that would make me compare all of them, and I don't want to compare music.
Yeah, I
Um,
get
if
that.
I were to share a seasonal playlist of all of the music that go from that month to that month in terms of season, like
Yeah.
seasonal, like that just brings out more. It's more of a communication to give out uh, the expressed idea, okay, this is what works for me in that month, or this month is in that month, or this music goes in that. It's just it gets very complicated, especially when you go through like months of December or January, which is like it more turns you down
Come
to go more
together.
slow.
Yeah,
You don't
and
go as
more.
fast paced.
Yeah.
What's up?
They
Yeah,
move
it's like the
together.
fast pace. Like your energy is not as fast paced, which gets you a little irritated if you're in the winter months because it's like you want to get shit done. But
Yeah.
then when you go into like the summertime, you fall into like, you know, just for an example, not this is every for everyone, but like Sublime will come into the mix, and then you start realizing, wait, or that time where I should be at the gym, but not really at the gym. I'm more in my house, just listening to music, having
Yeah.
a cigarette, which is that's basically my traditional way of listening to that kind of music. But uh, as I said, for my album, It's Spooky in California retrospective, that's a good word to describe stuff. I have a really hard time of describing things with really uh, more over, not underused words, but words that, work in a sentence, I guess. I
Yeah, and
feel like
I would
you
also,
work
I guess,
in,
do it justice too is a big part of it.
yeah, it's like when you go from genre to genre, that's how you make the conclusion, is when you go into seasonal. parts of your life, you start to dwell in having low activity as to high activity of frequency in your life. Like when you go through moments where it's rainy for the first time in a long time, that's when it starts. The, everything's wishy-washy in music because you're listening to sometimes, you know, this kind of music or this kind of music or this kind of music, but not to, emphasize, I guess, um, you know, how music is created. I mean, that's just more complex for me to understand or just explain because that happens to me so much. I mean, seasonal
I
recording.
I have a really big
That's the thing.
thing about asking like artists and stuff that I really like love and aspire to is like like how do you write or like work on music whenever you feel depressed and like that kind of stuff. And like sometimes, like from Ariel Pink, I remember he said like I never write or work on music whenever I'm depressed and like that kind of shit. But also like to some degree, in a lot of artists' music, if there were happy love songs or sappy ones or whatever was like coming from like a certain place and how that played a role, would you say like that kind of stuff also plays a role into how you navigate your own music?
Yeah, it's really it's the time of making the music is more uh hard to explain than giving the visuals of what you want in your music. Um that's more um bringing out more of a conversation for your
Yeah,
music. I feel like if you work on it like this way, not that way, but that's a wrong way to explain it. If you go in certain periods, okay, I want to
that
record
with
this.
that headspace.
Yeah, with the headspace of going in, okay, I want to rewrite this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, that could be a completely um it could be disillusionizing, you going from one month to the other month because when you make a song in a certain season, as opposed for how I record, not for everyone how everyone else records, but how this works for me is like when I'll go into like a month like July, and then soon enough I'll stop recording for a certain amount. I'll have writer's block,
Yeah.
for whatever reason it is. I go back into the home studio and I'm like, wait, I recorded this 4 months ago, and I don't have the same way or feeling that I feel like expressing or, feel like physically expressing in my music because music helps you with dancing and dancing is an exercise. And if you have that some sort of, you know, if the neuroplasticity in your brain is, wired to think in that motion of the song that you loved 4 months ago, I mean, that can be very complicated. Not that it's hard to describe. It can be hard to describe, but uh, music is very complex. Again, um, it can be like an equation.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think like the biggest thing from like the live aspect is the actual experience and how that translated well if you knew the artist or if you didn't know the artist at all. Like I'm always really big on going to shows like I have no clue who the fuck is playing and like just kind of dissect on like like what they bring to each track and like and some of that I think, and whenever you go into it without like looking them up and trying to see like, oh, like what they have going on, that's whenever you have a way more like enjoyable time trying to like be free and like let that like let everything else go. And rather than like whenever you have like a pre-notation of like a really famous artist or something that you have in mind and like having certain expectations of the show because of like your own perception, I guess, too, or like your own
your
music.
own narrative.
Yeah, yeah. And like if you didn't know the artist and like you really see how those other people are able to get into like maybe like the newer songs or the older songs you didn't care for or whatever, and you have like a new idea. Let's talk a little bit of funny vibe osmosis questions. I got a couple for you. So if you were stranded on an island and you could only take one thing with you, what would you bring?
Bring my headphones.
Headphones.
I would
And
bring
what?
I would bring my MIDI. I would bring my RCA cord, which is down below me. I would bring uh hmm, bring one of my guitar picks. If I ever want to create a guitar, if I want to build a guitar on the island. I mean, come on, man. That'd be awesome. Building your own.
This might count
I
as a
don't know how to
bundle
build a
pack.
guitar though. That would be really dope though.
This counts as a bundle pack, but I'll take it. Well, what would you say is some favorite movies?
Oh my God. My favorite movie?
Or,
Oh
or,
my
or
God.
we could list out at least five.
Oh my God. Five movies. All right. Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Twister. Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Um, Stop Making Sense. Um, the Talking Heads movie, and then The Holdovers.
The Holder. Was
Holdovers is a
I was
The
about to go
Holdovers
see
is
that
a
one.
new movie that just came out.
Yeah, that one it looks promising. The only thing like I think I couldn't get into was the holiday spirit vibe yet. Like some of these holiday movies I'm still like waiting on, but this one, I can't wait forever because then it'll be like, what the fuck am I watching this for in like
Right.
July? um,
Right.
but it seems really interesting. I'm a big fan of like Paul Giamatti and like I would say I'd say like favorite movies, maybe favorite directors on my end. M. Night Shyamalan. All right, he's brought up Lady in the Water, The Village, and like all these weird movies with like Split and stuff, and like those
Paul
ones.
was in Lady in the Water, which is great.
Yeah, like in like that aspect of fantasy and like real life and like what could happen. That's what's really interesting to me because like some of these movies you find out like maybe could happen or what would you do in like that situation too. And especially like with like in the village, if you grew up knowing only one thing and then you found out like to actually help yourself, you had to go out into the real world, what that would look like in today's society, it would be crazy. Well, let's talk a little bit about music. What's some of your favorite artists and musicians and like music that you listen to?
Well, I do listen to a lot of music. I'm a big fan of outsider music. I'm a big fan of electronic music. Been to a lot of shows, not so many shows, but a lot of shows of how I've seen it. I don't know how people are spending that much money of uh, going, to like big festivals. I wish I could, but um, as opposed to my favorite artists, I've been listening to a lot of binaural audio frequencies lately for my music creating because when I do record, I get in the headspace of okay, I have to concentrate. I can't be, oh, I go make this little sound and then soon enough I shut the computer off, and I don't want that to happen. So it's like if I listen to something that's more meditative frequency, um, that helps my brain shut down because my brain just is always 1,000 miles per hour every day. It's amazing. Um, I still try to figure out the answers of my brain of why it works that way or that way or that way. If I was gonna say like my favorite artist just in general, Aphex Twin is definitely one of the biggest influences in my music discography, mostly for a lot of the electronic demos I've made in the past of high school and going through what high school was. I mean, I brought in my computer every day at school, and I would make these demos that would be very similar to very techno uh, driven kind of almost a journey. It was more of a journey of uh, understanding that sound and that sound and that sound, where it comes from, how it's created, where and what machine is it made from. That's what I was very curious about going through school, and that really changed my way of thinking. going to college as well. Aphex Twin definitely changed um, what I think for music is complex, and some days you'll never be
Complex.
able to figure out.
Yeah, like there's some stuff about Aphex Twin. It's like so complex and like derivative, and like every single song has like so much to offer and like a realm. I'm really into I have like the full discography like downloaded, but the Zero stuff, all that stuff is just like so brilliant, and like the tempos and the pacing and everything and how it works is just like how did you think about like having like a song that's like really fast BPM, like 300 or whatever, and then find like the next track be like more settle at like 200 or something, but still has like fast-paced beats, but just like chilled out, like really like keyed out like synth sounds and that kind of stuff. And also I kind of noticed like in your own music, like you maybe have like faster choppy beats, but it's really focused on like the actual like keys and melody that's happening. Whenever you're like layering songs, how do you go about like finding your parts?
Well, I use sample-based material machine techniques um, in how Aphex Twin completes this project. Um, he creates a lot of projects in his head, which I do find that this is a normal complexity to have an artist when they make music in their full headspace of just a months of work and then go on to something else. I found out that using a lot of sample-based techniques through using a MPK MIDI is very helpful
Yeah,
to kind of changing how EQ works, or how a ring shifter works, or how certain modulation techniques work in this situation or that situation. Not for every situation, but for every situation comes an answer, and that answer has to have a question first. And that question is usually, for me, it's like, how do I find a good rhythm and groove that can really simply and symmetrically work beautifully within all of the other instrument elements that are behind it? Because when you think of like easy listening music like Les Baxter,
yeah,
that's more of sharing the idea that composing music, like written music, which is very powerful music. I mean, it's all done in time and it's very singular, and its movement is so interchangeable and it works beautifully. But when you look at it that way, you hear a lot of different instruments and its elements on different sides, to the left, to the right, to the center, to the top, to the bottom. It's going everywhere. So I kind of want to make more spatial music for um, kind of the community of synth pop and indie music, especially how I make my samples. It's very simple, but it's also it works as um, it's very eclectic. It's more of eclectic to explain how it works rather than just showing you how you do it easily.
yeah,
Because
that's a good point.
digital work and machinery now is just ridiculous to understand, especially coming from a compressor that is in your computer as opposed to a compressor that is outside of your computer. So
Without
it's
a
just
doubt.
things just get crazy and crazy, especially with how music is processed and um, mixed by people. It's amazing. It just blows my mind.
One of my favorite instruments is a little Yamaha guy. But say if I hook up like even my microphone onto it, or like the K oscillator or the guitar, whatever you're processing through it, it will pick up extra notes that aren't there, and they add it in, and you can find out like basically tune in like over like 200 different sounds. So like as like you're playing along to something, it like accompanies you naturally. That kind of stuff, I'm like, how does it know how to pick up and do that? Whenever you do that kind of stuff on a computer, you're having to kind of like synthesize or quantize and find out like what exactly is being played to like manipulate and master that, other than like playing that and recording that like as is. Yeah, and that kind of stuff is really interesting to me because like kind of shows like the difference whenever like I have like this workstation that's like its own tape, but every single thing that you have on the tracks, it's like 16 different tracks, and you have to like layer that and then go back and then either overdub on top of that track or move on to the next track. And also like, find out how you're going to translate that back to the computer and that kind of stuff. And it's like
So much bouncing.
yeah, yeah, definitely is like always like, changes up like the variety about how you have like a different kind of sound and stuff like that. Do you ever kind of like wish like whenever you're working on music that you were using like different gear than what you have, or like want to like elevate or change stuff?
Oh my God, there's so many days that I think about under procrastinating the idea of getting onto a bass guitar for at
Yeah.
least just an amount of changeable energy that I can do for myself as a musician works more beautifully than me figuring it out as a human on the
Right.
street, trying to figure what and how can I do it more creatively rather than just playing a regular guitar.
Yeah.
That is so hard for me to get over
Yeah.
um, in a hill of procrastination. Not protect. Pre- um, it's very pretentious.
Right. I think
I didn't want to say that it isn't pretentious, but it is pretentious.
well, I
Uh,
think like to some extent, like whenever you like when we're talking about bass here, it's like you can use like right like the computer or like your keyboard and like find out like the base stuff that's working for it, but also um like that step back of like if I did this by hand and then also added other stuff that fills in and makes it more fatter or whatever. And to me it's like I kind of face this own thing if it's like I can like sit here and like record and stuff, and then I'm like I don't want to use the bass. I'd rather just like just like not like put in the time and effort and like try and find out like bass stuff that's going to do this manually rather than like just trying to sit here and tune up and find out like what tuning I was in. And yeah, and also like there's sometimes I guess where I'm like if I had my actual bass cab and then had like my pedals hooked up into that and then I process that, that's like, gonna change how I run a song. Yeah.
that's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
you put your hands in the air and you're just like, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit of that is like the amount of like effort and also like how some tracks have more of like a laid back feel and other tracks you feel like you put like a lot more into it, especially like on maybe like the mixing and mastering stuff. Do you have like a favorite song of yours on your latest record that you like you can say is always like like enjoy listening to that rather than like critique it?
Oh my God. Well, I worked with this guy who is, I believe he lives in Texas. His name's Jake Harrison. He makes amazing music. His music is so cerebrally, uh, it just works so well in the synth department of listening to indie rock, indie pop music. It's like I figured this guy out because I could hear some John Mouse elements in
Huh?
his music as I heard like his latest track, Man, is just so um I mean, the soundscape that is going on in the back of this song, particularly, Man, that he made, um, it just blew me away. It blew me away sonically and musically. Um, and that's how I knew something was up. So I contacted him. We formed a schedule to, email back and forth. And, we did that. It was as simple as that. And we made a track that is called It's Love, I guess. It's a very,
Yeah, that's
uh,
cool.
it's a very smooth, very slow song, but instrumentally it works.
Yeah.
Vocally, the
It's well
song,
placed.
yeah, vocally, I thought that this song was gonna work because um, I feel like me and Jake have the same good elements in recording music, and that just worked, the way it did. It worked very, uh, it worked was very unconditional. I mean, it wasn't, pressured, or if it wasn't sugar coated. The song was not put under, any musical or pedal pressure or anything like that particularly.
Yeah.
Uh, but I would say that this song was the most hardest to finish because um, it definitely shows elements of critiquing the idea that it moves from one mood to another mood very fast. Because the song in the beginning, it starts from something very small, then becomes, radiant, it becomes very slimy and very oozy. And then you start realizing, wait, the synths are driving downward. Now it's becoming more of like boom, choom, boom, boom, choom. Then you start grooving.
Yeah.
Uh, but how I feel about it, I think it's the best track because not only is it by someone who's in Texas and wants to make beautiful music, which he does, it's just how complex can we get a song to its its workship? Because each workship of how an artist works is different. I mean, you can work from being recording for a certain amount of time and then stopping and then going back to music. I mean, anything can happen. It's just amazing how music can, be produced that fast and very. It's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe for me personally because the music just works. It just flows through me. But as I work with other individuals like Jake, the experience just changes. And I think I get lost in how I recorded the song as opposed to like what the song does feel in the moment after you like finished it completely. That is just like the moment where it's like, wait, something happened here. We just made something amazing, and it makes you, okay, knock on wood, but also crying over spilled milk. You just finished something that just, oh my God, you know, yeah.
Um, what would you say is a guilty pleasure of yours?
Well, let's see. Hmm. I do love Mexican food. Um,
That counts.
yeah, I love
Street
Mexican
food.
food. Love listening to music any day.
Do you have like a favorite
Meditating.
place you go to, like to
What's up?
eat? You have a favorite place you go to eat, or like when you're talking about Mexican?
Ooh, Super Duper Burger is
Yeah.
pretty fun. Yeah. How about you?
Uh, food wise, what's up or Watsu Burger, Katsu Burger.
Katsu Burger?
Yeah, that stuff's
That's
crazy.
what's up?
Yeah, what to say? I can't think. I give that up. Are you a fan of sativa or indica?
Indica, baby.
Indica. Do you play video games?
I do believe, yeah, I play video games once in a while. I play
PlayStation,
this game,
Xbox.
PlayStation.
Cool. What
Yeah.
was your game? What was your game of choice? Sorry.
I love BO3 Zombies Chronicles. That game is so fun to play. Oh my God. That is like the most addicting zombie mode to play. Like just PlayStation 4 wise, like
Yeah.
above PlayStation 3 and 2, those games are beyond fire. But this game is like it puts you down in the mode of, you know, going to kill some zombies. It's
I gotta give PlayStation where it's due. Like I've done from PlayStation and Xbox, and I still always enjoy PlayStation. Game wise, PlayStation wise, we're talking all I played all the Evil Within series and the Resident Evil
okay.
games. Yeah, like I'm really curious about what they've done for Resident Evil now. Looking forward what they bring for PlayStation 5 if they do anything. Are you a fan of reading? Are you a reading shout out?
Yes, I do. I have a book that I just put away because I finished it, and I want to know where I put it. I put it somewhere. Um, but it's a book called The Creative Act of Way Being by Rick Rubin. I just finished it, and oh my God, it's like I really recommend that to every artist or musician or creative out there, just because the way how he explains the information in this book, it takes you on a full wormhole of information that is so out of box thinking, not really in the way of thinking rational thinking. It's more thinking this is how I think, and this may could help you if possible, if possible in the future and possible of the present. It doesn't matter. But he explains this information so I mean, how he communicates is like flowing through a river. I mean, if you think about it, he's been through so many journeys musically with so many different artists around the world. It's just,
Yeah.
it brings me to the answer or the conclusion, the question answer is he goes from there, he goes from there, he goes from there, and he goes from there, and then he writes a book. Then soon enough, you were like, wait, this is more spiritual than I think he's ever been.
Yeah.
And um, spiritually, you know, sane, not that, every human has to take account into what he says, but how he explains the musical difference of recording and feeling the energy of, I want to keep that, I want to use that, and I want to um, use that for the music that I want to create. However, you start to realize as a guy like this, um, he's worked with all like Kanye West, he's worked with Def Jam, he's worked with so many different record labels, and
The
it's
new Strokes
amazing.
album is amazing. I'm a really big fan of that new Abnormal. I'm like, I don't know what he was thinking working with the Strokes, but he masterpieced it.
He worked it. He definitely worked it with the
Yeah.
Strokes. Man, the Strokes are just amazing band. I
Um,
love it. I
yeah,
love it so much.
let's get into a funny vibo. All right, so I'll get like three more questions in there. If you had a
Okay.
time machine, would you go forwards or backwards?
You said what was your question?
But if you had a time machine, would you go forwards or backwards?
Oh my. You know what? I want to go backwards.
Yeah? To
Yeah.
when? How
Let's
far,
go backwards.
how far back we talking?
Uh let's think we're going back to like, I don't know, fucking 1989.
All right.
Let's let's try that.
Yeah. Who would you hit up first? You know, would you try and go see somebody? Would you go to a show? Go out to eat or something?
I would go to the premiere of Batman 89 with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, and
Mm.
I would stash and steal as many Batman memorabilia out of those shops that I can because, oh my
Yeah,
God,
worth
I
so
have
much money.
so much
I
Batman
was
shit in my closet that it's like, okay, now I have to figure out the idea of where I'm going to stash all this shit. But not only that, I have an obsession with this fucking movie that I want to go so badly in the back of the, want to go in the time machine back into to the premiere of the movie, and it just, oh, that would be my dream.
Yeah, I'd probably hit up Prince and be like, I need to be on this collaboration with you.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's just crazy to see that Michael Keaton was Batman. He was a
yeah,
comedian, and
ideal
then he
one.
went to Batman. That's just
Yeah.
that that shocked a lot of people when it happened.
That's really funny because yesterday I did an interview and this director also mentioned like that movie was like a really big staple for his life and like would go back and like relive this experience too. And was mentioning how Jack Nicholson being like the all-time like bad guy, you know that like at that time period that was your Joker. And
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree. Growing up wise, you're like, I can't think where you would like watch another Jack Nicholson film and be like, it's not the guy from the Joker, you know. But besides
Not.
The Shining, you know.
It
Um,
works crazy. He goes from The Shining, he goes from all of these movies, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
yeah, it's a great one.
It just blows everyone's career off. It just did. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
What would you say is a fun or like a favorite memory of like working on music?
Oh my God. The first time that I ever stepped into a recording studio was with one of my friends that I made connection with my mother at a guitar center. He dropped us into the studio, and soon enough, I was in the studio with a rapper from the Bay Area named Love Rants.
Oh,
He made a song with 50 Cent called Up, which was pretty popular in like 2014, 2013. It's like a good hip hop song, Bay
yeah.
Area. But when I went into the studio, I saw him in there, and my parents came in with me, and it was just an apartment complex, size studio, and we made music. It was crazy. It was a crazy moment. Plus, I was like 10, 11 years old at the time, and I'm hanging with these rappers. It's a crazy moment. And plus, the guy who was working with Love Rants and E40, a bunch of E40 fans, a bunch of E40 workers too. Uh, is crazy. Is that I'm only 11, and the fact that this happened was so serendipitous because I was wanting to make music at the time that this happened, and it was a life-changing experience. That's how my friend put me on a platform for
Yeah.
creating music on Logic, and um, you know, I commemorate him for that a lot. It's crazy shit, crazy memories, bunch
Um,
of rap music going on.
this one's a classic one. What would your ultimate last meal be?
My last meal. My last meal would be fasuli noodles with chicken breast.
And no seasoning, how would you cook it? Would you do it yourself or have someone else do it?
It would be well done. The noodles would be have to cook well done, and the chicken's good cooked, good with cherry tomatoes, olive oil, uh,
Yeah, we're
and
talking.
what else? Yeah, it sounds hilarious, doesn't it? And then I would have a chocolate shake,
Yeah, yeah.
chocolate shake with whipped cream and a cherry on top.
Um, this one, yeah, this one will be the last one.
Hell yeah.
This one will be the last one. This one I think is more of my question on your end. What's your take on psychedelics? Are you a fan?
Psychedelics. I've done shrooms before. I'm not a big alcohol fan, but I love shrooms. I love weed. I'm trying to get, cut off weed. Um,
The money
but
makes it.
yeah,
Oh. And also, I guess before we
I don't
go,
know how I'm gonna fix it though. That's the thing. It's like I'm at my job and I'm like thinking, oh shit, I have a weed problem. I gotta fix this shit. Like when I come home,
never
I'm
look
like,
at it
what
as
am
a
I gonna
problem. I'm like, I'm just gonna get back to it, be like, I'm a pothead. I don't care. It's like, at least,
do?
at least I know what it's doing for me.
That's
Yeah.
the scenario, bro.
Before
That's
we go,
crazy.
people you like to shout out and like that you collaborated with, and
Yeah, yeah. I would love to shout out Grib Jenga Enterprises.
that's
Uh,
right. Yeah,
I
great.
love Grib Jenga so much. They are amazing. They're such a huge support-based system um, for music for any communities that are out there looking for amazing indie music or just any kind of music. It can be any
Yeah.
music. Um, I just love what their project has done. It's amazing. It really brings so much love to my heart seeing that they're doing this. I also love and shout out Familiar, a little funny joke. Familiar Face. I want to shout out Familiar Face. I
Yeah.
want to shout out Coke
Sure.
White. I want to shout out Coke White. Uh, uh, who else do I have? Jake Carson. I want to shout out Ariel Pink. Want to shout out all the artists, all the connections out there. Um, hell yeah.
Um, well, I really appreciate you taking this time to join Vibe Osmosis. It's been really fun, and I'm glad I got to answer some or get some questions answered. But I guess I got a few moments before we go. If you have any questions yourself,
Oh yeah. So are you any bands, like local bands, like particularly?
I'm in a few bands. Yes. One of the all time the band that I'm based out in Seattle is Sun Puddle.
Unbelievable.
My friend Trevor is the one that brought me to Seattle. He still lives out there, has the practice space. I plan on coming back. That's like a more I don't know. We recorded so much music together, and it's more like to me, it's like as if it's Kurt Cobain had a baby with Johnny Depp and they started a rock band together. I think that would be the vibe. Yeah, it might be like I think Trevor is Kurt Cobain reincarnated without playing left-handed. But yeah, the other band I'll shout out is Breakfast at the Zoo. That also is like we originally started in Miami, and that one is kind of the one where that's more like a hidden gem, you know? Yeah. But yeah, so like like a nomadic person. Like I, at first, like whenever I turned 17, I got into a car and I just like hit the road. And then like later on, like met my good friend at a frat party, and that's how we like eventually got into a van and like hit the road again. And that's kind of like the origins of like this was all before COVID, so it was like the first like 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, like those years I feel like were like every night was like about the party and about like trying to find time to record and get out there and play. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Any other questions? What's a good? I'm gonna do a mystery question.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Favorite cologne?
Oh, we're gonna go. Well, that's a good call. That's a good call. I'm gonna go with Polo Blue.
Polo blue?
Yeah, like I can't say like Polo has any bad sense, but like that cologne is always like worth it.
Polo's always worth it.
Yeah. What would you say?
I would do polo as well.
Yeah.
Polo.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm in red. Yeah, they got it going on.
I got uh, uh, Rain Essence.
Oh yeah, Rain.
Um, this is a Bulgari. Bulgari.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
Rain.
classic right there.
Yeah, this smells fire. This is really good. I have so many colognes and so many fragrances. It's crazy.
Also, I guess
Room filled with it.
did this is my like one of my central questions. Whenever you first got your computer, was it like Mac or Windows or PC?
Oh, it was Mac. I used Mac first. It slowly went from PC to Mac. When I was young, I went from PC at a young age and then went to Mac, and then I equipped it a MIDI when I was in middle school, and that's how it started. Um,
Yeah,
Pretty much the process of music, driving upward, more experience, more connections, more interviews, more stuff like that. And it brings out more confidence. That's the confidence thing that just barriers it.
yeah, that's a good point. What's your favorite part about recording? Is it the actual process, or is it the editing and mixing, or when it's done?
It's the mixing. The mixing I really want to do as a job. I've been going, or just recently went to school in 2021 in San Francisco called Powermind Studios. They
Okay.
helped me out with sound design and stuff like that. And uh, what I also figured out is um, when I'm recording and mixing, it's much more funner um, when you think about it long term, going away from the song for like a couple months and then going back to it. When
Yeah.
you do that, mixing um, really embraces the idea of going more out of the bigger picture of more sprouting a flower, more uh, let's just say more inspiration comes from that 2 months of not listening to the song that you've always wanted to finish for the last month or so. And
Yeah.
it's just like that happens so much more often than I've realized with my music and recording process at home where I record my music. I don't really have a big studio. I wish I did, but um, as I'm recording the mixing and mastering is what I would like to do um, full time for a lot of other people besides me, which I've done it for years, but I want to get more delve into the complex of really doing it full time. That would be really cool. Um,
One thing for me, like whenever like I can like whenever I feel like yeah, like I have some songs in me and I need to get onto it, it's like I'll spend like make the beat and I don't go back and try to edit and make sure that the beat's perfect. And then like I just go back and like record like all my overdubs, or once the beat's there, like plug in my instruments and just like have it like live
right.
record it. And then that's whenever I'm like, I don't want to go back and edit this and mix this. So I'm gonna try and like EQ this the way that I want it to sound like, and then just export it and forget about it, or just like leave it alone. And like almost majority of the songs that I have now. Like I used to be like save the project, export the instrumental version, take out all the vocals, and then also like export like the vocal version. Now I'm just like, if the vocals and everything is in there, just export it and like leave it alone and like don't even save the project. Like don't even want to be like, I want to go back and fix that song because I can't go back and fix that song because I deleted that project and moved on to the next song. And some, that's a hit or miss, but like sometimes you find out like, okay, whenever I didn't have to like focus on that aspect, I can see like what about that I liked. And then
Right.
also moving forward, what stuff you want to like embellish and work on before letting it go. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking this time, man. It's been fun. Thank you for joining Vibe Osmosis.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate this. I really do. All the love
Well,
and all the support. I really appreciate this.
I'll keep in touch with all the information and get this out there as soon as possible.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
All
thank
right.
you.
You have a good one, man.
You too. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.